And the Russian government thinks that Ukraine has to be a colony of Russia.
That's the way it is. The occupiers also attack from the territory of Russia, and they deport our people to the remote districts. So we are counting hundreds of thousands of people. This is another way of submitting our people. And it is really astonishing how ready they are to introduce the old colonial times and orders and their power imposing it on other people. The fourth aspect is how they treat people in the occupied territories. We have the experience of the Crimea that since 2014 has been under control of Russia as the occupying force. It was turned into one of the most dangerous places in Europe for all the people who value freedom and for the indigenous people, the Crimean Tatars in the peninsula, Muslims. There is no week during those 8 years so without news on the new repressions or trials against those people who do not make the occupying force happy. You cannot find in Europe any other place like the occupied Crimea, where on such a massive scale they repress and persecute Muslims who want to live their free lives. How can we ignore that or take no heed of that? This is happening in front of all the world. And the fifth aspect, it's been a long time since we had such a great risk of the mass destruction weapons being employed openly. The Russian authorities are threatening the world with the nuclear weapons, and the global politicians are getting ready for this possibility of the use of so-called tactical nuclear weapons, chemical or biological for that matter, what it means for all of us and for you. What does it mean for the world? First of all, that can lead to changes, to the change of attitude in different jurisdictions towards the weapon of mass destruction. If there is impunity with this Russian blackmail, some countries in the world might think it logical to acquire the nuclear weapons for themselves, for their own purposes. To tell that this is dangerous is to make an understatement. Russia has used the opportunity of Ukraine given up and abandoned its nuclear arsenal, which was the third by size in the world. Now there is a commitment on the part of Russia to guarantee security of Ukraine after us giving up the nuclear weapons. And instead, they are waging a colonial and predatory war against us. And they are wielding the nuclear weapons at that. Who can then believe in nuclear disarmament in the world? How can we possibly reliably guarantee long-term security for the regions that opt for the non-nuclear status, nuclear-free status? 6 months ago, we could not even imagine that such issues would be on the agenda. But now this is one of the outcomes of the Russian aggressive policy. Ladies and gentlemen, I have presented you with just 5 aspects of the global implications of this Russian war against Ukraine. I'm sure you realize that there are more to it. There are more aspects like that. This is the biggest war in Europe since the Second World War. And nobody can forecast 100% what negative aspects for the world cannot happen for certain. The sooner this war is ended, the better it will be for every people on this earth, not just for us. The sooner we deblock the Ukrainian seaport, the sooner we will stop the unfolding of the international food crisis, because we will dispatch our reserves and the new harvest, which will be smaller this year, because the Russian troops might our fields and destroyed our agricultural equipment. Russia was conscious betting on the international food crisis to limit the foodstuff supply, to use it as a weaponized pressure on the world. The sooner we liberate our lands from the occupying force, the better the people in all the world will be protected against the aggressive desires of those people who would like to conduct the same good old colonial policy. If the world is really united and honest with regard to this aggression coming from Russia against our sovereign state, the sooner we will count weeks till the end, not the month till the end of this war. I'm very grateful to your leader, President of Indonesia, for his invitation to the G20 summit this autumn. We accept this invitation with honor and delight, and by autumn I expect the world to solve this big problem. We should not let the big scale famine happen. We have to stop the atrocities and oppressions on such a scale. We should stop the nuclear blackmail and playing with the threat of chemical, biological weapons. I believe that at that summit, we will have just the friendly states, the partner states, and we won't have any occupiers or aggressors. So I would like you to pray, all the Indonesian people, to pray for the peace in this world, to save humanity from such threats. Thank you very much for your attention. Glory be to Ukraine.
Thank you, President Zelensky, for your message and for sharing us updates about the situation in Ukraine and for highlighting the very clear position of your country. And we assure you that Indonesians do pray for peace in Ukraine. I would like to begin by asking you a question about the military situation in Ukraine. You have said that in some parts of the war, Russia has 20 times more weapons than Ukraine. And we also know that there has been analysis that says that this is a war that is impossible for Russia to win. In other words, Russia cannot wholly militarily conquer Ukraine. And we understand that from Indonesia, because when we fought for our independence, it was independence or die. We would never surrender. So we understand exactly how you would die for your freedom and independence. My question is, what is the morale of the Ukrainian forces now that are fighting, and what can you say about the morale of the Russian forces that are fighting in your country?
Thank you very much for your understanding, for your support, and for the question. You are absolutely correct. We are fighting for the independence of our state, for our homes, our families, our children, our wives, spouses, and our parents. And that's what the morale depends upon. The morale is at a very high level with us, I'm sure. We understand that, unfortunately, there is a great suffering, tragedies for thousands of families that had to flee from the war and abandon their homes temporarily, as we believe. Some of them lost their children. It's an enormous tragedy. And we lost our heroes, our sons and daughters who sacrificed their lives fighting for the independence and freedom of our state, for our sovereignty. I'm sure that every soldier of Ukraine, there are different moments at war. Some is more confident and skillful, someone is less so, but the country is very confident and very united in that field. Speaking of the Russian morale, it is very difficult to tell. What we saw was indeed 20 times more at the very beginning.